Hello, everyone. The following is a conversation with Gili Ovadia of BionicHIVE. BionicHIVE is a company from Israel, a warehouse automation company headquartered in the US. Like many tech companies from Israel, BionicHIVE originates from the incubator known as the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces. Gili Ovadia is the Vice President Business Development, and before he joined the company in 2023, he held a variety of public and private high-level positions, and among other things, worked as an advisor to the Israeli Minister of Defense. Now, most of you probably have heard of BionicHIVE, the company, because a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, a video went viral of their warehouse robot Squid. And even Elon Musk commented on that on Twitter, which of course further fueled the popularity of the company. So please enjoy my conversation with Gili Ovadia. Can you tell everybody who you are and what BionicHIVE does? Because I assume that most people have heard of BionicHIVE, but maybe you can share a couple of details about yourself and also about the company.
Sure, I would love to. So first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate the time. My name is Gili Ovadia, and I'm the VP Business Development at BionicHIVE. I have, I would say, almost 20 years of experience with startups and technologies. Some of them I was part of the founding team, and most of them I was helping as an executive or from the side as an advisor. I moved from Israel to Silicon Valley about 12 years ago as the Israeli Consul for Economic Affairs. So I had the privilege to work with thousands of startups and corporates, and basically was involved in fostering the economic and technological relationship between Israeli companies and US companies in multiple ways and capacities. So I had experience and I had view to different industries, different technologies, different businesses, in a very good year. So that's a little bit about myself. In between, I was involved in some roles in the government, and I moved from private sector to public sector again and again. So this is me in 30 seconds. Let's talk about BionicHIVE. So BionicHIVE is a solution of fleets of robots that could automate any supply chain and any logistic environment within a couple of days, and retrofit and turn it into complete automated environment within a couple of days. So that's the solution in high level.
All right. May I ask? I remember from our first conversation. I think do you have a legal background or do you have a tech background? What is? I think legal, right?
In terms of what I studied law. I went to law school, but I never practiced. I did my internship, but never
Okay.
practiced.
All right. So this is. I mean, when you say you could turn any warehouse into an automated warehouse in a matter of days, I mean, this is that would be a major breakthrough. How did this happen? How did this company happen? Can you share some details about the origin story of BionicHIVE? Because, how do people come up with something like this?
Yeah. So first of all, I wasn't there, just for the record. But the background of the founding of the company, it's basically by mostly a couple of visionary and technological guys with a very multidisciplinary background. Some came from the UAV world, some came from fleet management, space, batteries, etc. And it was kind of a fusion of ideas. but none of them came from the logistics or the supply chain world. And that's why they took the first few years just to learn this very complex and sophisticated world of logistics. And they went with a very premature demo solution, and basically visited. And even then, that it was still like robot wired and controlled in a very not sophisticated way. It was already was enough to open the door for some of the biggest company in the world, and I'm talking about the biggest companies in the world. Although it was very clear that this is a beta that is not ready for anything, they were interested enough to test and to try this solution. And for us, it was mostly a great opportunity to learn and to absorb and get some feedback and insights. And that's what we did for the first few years with a little bit. I'm talking about really less than handful of person, doing everything in their garage, working on the robot, developing the idea, turn the technology into product, and mostly learn what the customer needs. And that was the first few years with very little money, with very little group of persons, and basically that's what brought us to design the robot that we see today.
This is you mentioned one thing that is very interesting, that the founding team came up with a technology, but they didn't have a background in logistics. And this is something that I see quite a bit in the logistics startup world. A couple of years back, probably most people would have been able to name the warehouse automation companies, like all of them, in 2 minutes, when they thought about this over a cup of coffee. Now, when you look at the market map, it's you cannot oversee it. There's no way you can know all the companies. There's another company coming up every other week, and most of them share one trait, which is they have no background in logistics. There are robotics engineers, software engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, but very few logistics people in the industry. So this is interesting.
That's very interesting first, and second, yeah, that's very true to our case. But I think the main spirit within this founding team and still the CEO of the company is a guy named Liran Reiser. He's a system engineer, and he had a rich experience with multiple startups, and he's a very talented and creative guy, and he came up with the idea. But yeah, that's very much aligned to what you just described.
Yeah. And so when the company, what is the founding year of the company?
2016.
2016. So I think about 4 years ago when the first videos of BionicHIVE went viral? I think must have been around 2020, something like this. Yeah. And then, of course, Elon Musk retweeted or responded to a video that was on Twitter about BionicHIVE, which further fueled the popularity. Since these videos were shared, have there been any major changes to the concept or to the technology? I mean, this is 4 years, and 4 years is a long time in the startup world, right?
So yeah, a lot of changes, a lot of updates, and I can go component by component, but maybe I could mention a few. So one of them is the arm. So the idea is that the arm could engage in double dip and triple dip. It could go up to almost 8 feet deep, and pull up package. Second, is the whole idea of the manipulation of the arm. It could be a suction cup, but it could also be a gripper or basket or other hand manipulator that will change the actual task that the robot could could perform. Another interesting thing is the rotating tray. The tray of the robot could rotate, and that allow us to load and unload from both sides. So you're not limited to one side. So that's another big thing. The another interesting concept that was added is the automatic battery replacement that basically allows the robot to work around the clock. It doesn't need to stop, and to swap batteries manually. It has basically a energy consumption prediction model that could tell him, hey, you have currently 50 tasks. After task number 35, you'll run out of battery. So you want to go and stop by at the battery station swap.
So like with your electric car, so that tells you, oh, you want to go 300 miles, you better charge up in 200 miles so you get to your destination.
Yeah. And that's but the nice thing here, I mean, not like car, that the upcoming missions are predicted. You know exactly the distances, you know how much he would need to climb, you know if he needs to carry. And that's, by the way, another patent out of many that we have and that we're currently working on, and the whole prediction of energy consumption. But yeah, the idea of battery being able to work around the clock and swap battery at a battery swap station. So yeah, these are just 3 or 4 ideas or components that were added to the main concept. But maybe the core of the concept, the idea of climbing robot that could travel in 3 dimensions, remain the same. What we've done in the last 4 years is a lot of quite crazy achievements and progress, mostly in the commercial side. And obviously we're working on the Gen 3 robot that will be deployed by the end of this quarter, and other things. But so the main concept remained the same, but I mean there's a lot of developments and updates that are being added, as I mentioned.
Right. You mentioned the battery swapping. That is fully automated, right? So there's no human interaction with the battery swapping. Okay.
No, right. Yeah, fully automated.
How long does a robot run on a single charge of a battery?
So it really depends. First of all, the pack including 2 batteries, so you can plan, and if that's part of the model. If you want to use 1 battery or 2, it has. Second, it's really depending on the task that it performed. Obviously, climbing required way more energy. If it's empty climbing, or I mean, if you have the package on it, if you carry a package while it's climbing. So a lot of factors. I mean, the distances, the climbing, the carrying, and so on. If you're just driving on the floor very long distances versus climbing with I don't know 10 kilos packages, it will obviously factor and impact the lifetime of the battery. But we're talking about hours, many hours. It could run from 1 to 2 hours all the way to double-digit number.
Okay, so as, let's say under normal circumstances, would it last for 1 work shift, or do you have to go battery swapping in between?
No, I think I mean if you shift of what 8 to 10 hours, it could, yeah. In some cases, it could. Yeah.
All right. Now, when you look at the concept, it seems almost obvious that you should do something like this: use existing racks and do not build specialized racks, and have a robot that is able to travel on the floor and also climb the racks. Why hasn't anybody else done that before? I mean, what is the reason that BionicHIVE was apparently the first one to leverage that concept? That seems so obvious, at least in hindsight. I mean, you have competitors like Exotech, for instance, who do something similar. They also travel on the floor with their robots, and they can also climb up the racks. The difference is they have specialized racks, which is a tiny difference, but it is a difference that can make all the difference when you walk into an existing warehouse and they don't want to revamp the entire thing. So how do you explain that?
I think it's required some philosophical leap of faith that mostly from the site manager and the operation manager, because a question that I get again and again is, okay, tell me about your material flow and we will tell you if we can adapt to it. Basically, like the company you mentioned, Exotic. Because that's very much the concept of most of the companies. We have our own material flow and you will adapt to us. And we come in with the opposite. Again, sorry for using the word philosophical in operation.
That's all right. There's a lot of philosophy in warehousing.
Yeah, and that goes very deep to our philosophy. We want to adapt to your material flow. And another very important point that you mentioned is to the existing one. And we don't ask you to change the material flow. We don't ask you to change the racking shelves. We don't ask you to change anything. We will adapt to whatever you have, and it will be very quick, and there'll be no downtime, and there'll be no crazy investment of millions of dollars like some of the companies you mentioned that basically need to change anything. They need to shut down the site for a couple of weeks or months, I don't know, invest millions of dollars, and basically they build the entire warehouse around it. And if anything change, if they have a new customer in 2 years, and he has his own requirement, everything could be more challenging. One of the nice things that we offer, and that's a very big thing, it's the operational flexibility. And that's why we really like to work with 3PL. That they have their customer. Today it could be clothing company, and the next day it could be auto parts. And it could be very different material flow, very different product, different inventory, different size and weights of the packages. But we really allow them this range of flexibility. They could support multiple use cases. You could use the robot to run directly from the track dock all the way to the rack and shelf, from the rack and shelf to the pick model, or from the pick model directly to the shipping area. And once we have the infrastructure, we can support any use case, and sometimes even multiple use cases. We could do pick in the morning, put away in the afternoon, and replenishment at night. No need to change anything.
I've got a ton of questions. Let's see if I can get them in the right sequence. When I look at your Zoom background, I see, and I guess you can't. Can you see your own Zoom background? I've never used a Zoom background. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, in the rack in the background, you have those. What is that? Probably plastic boxes that are open to the eye, so you can reach inside. You can grab inside the box and pick an item out of the box. Have you experimented with picking parts directly out of boxes in the shelf? Because at the moment you store and retrieve the box, but have you ever tried?
I alluded to that in the beginning when I talked about the end manipulator that could be replaced easily. It's not something that we've done up until now, but it's totally doable. It takes 1 second to remove the current arm with the suction cup, as you currently see, and with the, let's say, the gripper arm. So it's totally doable. It's something that we have from concept all the way to design, and and to some extent to execution, but it's not something we've done that I can show you a video that is already at a customer site. Yeah.
Because I would think probably if Squid were able to carry 2 boxes, or at least had space for 2 boxes, you could pull out 1 box off the rack, then take an item or multiple items out of that source box and place them in the target box, and then return.
Or using 2 robots.
Or using, or you could do that, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Remember the concept, one of the first what I mentioned when I described the solution is it's a fleet of robots. We don't believe in you, and they could help each other with. We have a nice video I could send you later. We call it teamwork, and you see how they set up, build up not all the way to the top, but they could build or depallet. And so when working together, and so yeah, definitely that they could work together with stacking, with picking, as you mentioned right now, a specific item. Yeah, so they could work in as a team.
You mentioned you don't have to change a thing in the warehouse. You go in and you work with the existing infrastructure. But then if we think about cartons and totes that are placed in the rack, you probably do have some minimum requirements when it comes to carton quality or shapes, don't you? Because it could happen that you try to pull a carton out of the rack, and instead what happens is you open the carton and everything falls out because the carton is crap.
So they have to be in decent shape. They can be completely, tear or broken, but you'll be surprised what kind of boxes we can carry. Funny enough, very big company that everybody knows really well. One of the first use cases that we do for them in operation, not demo, not POC, real use cases, is they call it damaged product. And that's for packages that been damaged throughout the process, and they want us to be able to take care of this project. And then they have 3 different routes: one for liquidation, one for return to the vendor, one for grading and deciding what to do. But that's the first use case that we got with them to take care of the damaged product. Just because they realize, as part of the testing, the thorough testing that we've gone through, how capable is the robot in terms of picking multiple size, multiple shape, multiple dimension, multiple weights. And you mentioned totes. I remember one of the guy told me, he gave me the totes and told me, can you carry this one? And we did. And he said, it just made my week. And just because the robot is so, again, flexibility, that's the main concept.
Right. Now I have to ask a stupid question. What's the system actually doing? Now let me explain the question. What I see in the videos and what we've been talking about is storage and retrieval of cartons or boxes. But that's a function in the warehouse, like putting a carton in a rack. But that's not something that you desire to do. That's not a value creating function. That's just a necessity. But is Squid, or the system that's surrounding Squid, is that a goods to person picking system? Or what is the primary application that you see for Squid and its colleagues?
That's really good question. It seems like I'm almost asked for you to ask this question, because the robot is the soup. As funny as it may sound, the robot is almost the let's say not the stupid, but not the smartest part of the whole solution. The smartest part is the system that basically orchestrates the entire fleet, and we call it the server. But this is an AI algorithmic engine. And this is the learning component of the system, and it learns many things. It learns the material flow and the operation of the site. So it could tell that by 9 a.m. every day, all the trucks are coming to the shipping area, meaning all the pick away need to be done by 8:30. And it times the task based on that. It could also learn that somebody left a pallet that is blocking one of the aisles. So it will send all the robot bypassing this particular aisle. It also learn, this is more to the robot, but I mean, the robot is smart enough, or it's not that smart, but basically it's equipped with a classifier, allow him to you say, this is a racking shelf. It's going to stay here for the next foreseeable years. This is a pallet. He will stay here. It will stay here for the next few days or weeks. And this is a human being. He will be gone in a couple of seconds. So he would react differently based on what he classified. But going back to the system, so the system basically learn your task, your operation, your material flow, and it connected, and it's basically, I had to think about it as two sides. On one hand, it's connected to the WMS, to the existing WMS of the warehouse, and again, anywhere, any WMS, we have an API that connect to any WMS, and it just inject all of the, I don't know, daily task or weekly or hourly task, and the other hand, it operates or runs the fleet of robots, and it could tell, hey, this robot is broken. I'm gonna take into maintenance. This robot need to change battery. This robot the closest, so he will go and do this and task. But in the meantime, I will also want you to to do some cycle count or inventory management, and that goes back to the second part of the question, where we see our future channels of revenue, and these are all related to data. Yes, we are a robotics company. Yes, we are a hardware company, but the truth is we see ourselves as more of a software company, and in the future we want to base most of our revenue on data, basically being able to run a cycle count and inventory management, things that are so crucial for this logistic company. Think about, the robot is already driving, is already covering all of the warehouse. So why not, on the way, and it has the camera. So I want, do the inventory management task that is required, and basically provide live data to the warehouse management. So yeah,
Well, that's a very
hopefully I was able to answer these two questions.
well, that's a very interesting point that you're mentioning, the cycle counting, the inventory management, because you're probably familiar with this. With this hype that we've had about, say, warehouse drones. There's I think since 2017 or so, I was at Logimart, and suddenly, and out of nowhere, people were coming to our booth. And back then, I was working for SSI, and I was standing at the booth trying to serve customers, and then these people came and said, "We have drones for warehouse." And I asked, "So what do you need drones for in the warehouse?" "Yeah, we can do like cycle counting, we can do inventory management. We basically fly through the warehouse and we do the cycle counting." I thought, that's not a great idea, because you can't look into any boxes. You have no idea what's happening inside a rack. You can fly through the aisles, but now with Squid, what you can do is you can actually pull out a box. You can look into the box with a camera, which of course enables you to have a much better estimate of what's inside the box. Because some of the results that I've heard of about warehouse drones flying around and doing the cycle counting was that accuracy was like 70%, something like this, which of course is not sufficient. You can't work with that. It's a nice try, but you can't base any balance sheet on 70% accuracy, right?
Yeah, I think the idea is very exciting and to some extent compelling, but I have to say that we've been asked to come, and many companies that reach out to us after they had some experience that was not so good with this drone company, and they realized basically very similar they reach to the same conclusion that you just reach out before even talking to them. That it's limited and it has some really hard limitation in terms of what it could do, and they basically understood that we'll be able to solve it.
Right.
Again, this is not the immediate use case that we currently offer. This is something that we plan to. I mean, it's already developed, but we plan to to double down on it in the next year or two.
Right.
But this is definitely what we see as a significant part of our future.
Right. Now, coming back to the question that I've asked, so basically what I've tried to do is, in my head, I was trying to put you in a box, literally. So I was thinking, is this an ASRS? Or is this a complete goods-to-person system? Or what is it actually? And so for instance, I mentioned Exotech before, which is also a fantastic company. What they do is very clearly defined. They have a goods-to-person picking system. They store and retrieve boxes, but the purpose of storing and retrieving the boxes is to serve pick stations, where somebody stands and does order picking from the boxes. Now, I understand from your question that the use case, from your answer, that the use case for Squid that you have in mind is much broader than that. So you're not trying to confine it to one specific application like goods-to-person picking or just storage and retrieval, but you want the robot to be basically the extension of the human who's working in the warehouse and delegate tasks to the robot. Is that a proper way of describing it?
Exactly. That's a perfect way to describe it. And again, it goes back to a very philosophical part of the design of our solution. We design it to work alongside human being, and we see human being as our main competitor. And every company that you ask who is your main competitor, they'll tell you we don't have any competitor. We quite unique in that sense. But yeah, I think it's really hard to put us in a pack in the right bucket because we're not ASRS. I mean, we have the elevation capability that reminds you of the ASRS, and we have the ability to run it on the floor and just take a box from point A to point B, like a lot of AGV and AMR, and we do both. Obviously, we won't be able to perform the same throughput, maybe, or the same speed. But we offer a lot of flexibility, and I think flexibility and the idea of working with multiple use cases and not limiting ourselves to one, that's in the core of our overall offering. I think that's why it's really compelling for this 3PL and but the whole industry is changing in a higher pace, and everybody understands it this day, and they don't want to lock themselves to a very great solution that will be ideal for a year, and then everything will change in the following year. So I think the flexibility that we're offering is very compelling to a lot of these big players.
But do you have a pick station? Because we did talk about the picking process. So I understand one of the many different things that Squid could do is support a goods-to-person picking process, right? So, but do you have a design of a pick station that is already available, or is that something that you plan to do in the future?
You mean, just to make sure I understood what you asked, basically the ability to pick a box and put it on a pallet? Or?
No, what I mean is the ability to take a box, either a tote or a carton, off the rack. I mean, that part is clear. Then bring it to a human operator who would then perform a pick, like an item pick, pick out of the box, and then bring back the box to the rack.
So the item. So yeah, we can take the box and put it on a conveyor or on a picking model, and we can, and this is something we're already doing. So hopefully that answers the first part of the question. But but picking out of the box, this is not something we have at the moment.
No, okay, but you would bring it to the operator, to a human operator, and then they could make a pick, and then you would bring the box back to the system. Okay, understood. Understood.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, you mentioned the system is specifically designed for mixed environments, so you want to work alongside humans. Now, I don't know how the situation is in the US, which of course is a different legal setting, but when I think about safety, I have a hard time imagining that you can get away with a robot that is climbing up a rack, manipulating boxes in a warehouse aisle, while at the same time, below the robot on the floor, there will be humans walking back and forth, because there's always a risk that something falls down, right? Either the box falls down or even the entire robot could potentially fall down. Now, how is that? What's the safety concept for this? How does that work?
So in a way, just because we are defining a new category, uh, um, we also still working on the right certificate and standards to adhere to.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and we're working with some of the most uh, strict, you know, safety requirements such as OSHA California
Right.
and others.
I'm sure OSHA California is probably that's probably fun to work with.
Yeah, it's considered the
Yeah.
highest um, standard of safety. And we are doing everything in order to comply with all of the requirements. But in a way, we are, you know, we're writing the book as we speak, because it's not something that was, I mean, goes back to our previous topics of discussion. It's not something that was existed. So in a way, it required a lot of creativity and you know, open-minded. But I want to talk about safety because this is something that is very core of our development. I mean, yeah, there are the certificate and the standard which we will adhere to all of them, but I want to talk about the mechanics and the physics of it. The design of the robot is designed to safety, meaning if the robot is, I don't know, for some reason stopped working and it's on the aisle, I don't know, on the racking shelf, and you want to just take it down, you won't be able to, because the robot is physically latch on onto the rail, and there's no way, even if you, I mean, at some of the customer side, we were actually hanging on the robot to try to show them how safe it is, and there's the robot is latched to the rail, and you won't be able to take it off. So you have to carry it with your hand for until the end of the shelf, and then there are like a couple of safety pins that you need to pull. I really love. I would be able. I was really hope I was able to show it to you, but I mean, I have to
We do this next time.
the actual device. But I mean, it's physically designed in a way that even if you want to, even if all the electricity fail and the robot, and I'll say there's no battery, there's no power, the robot physically cannot fall from the rail because it's physically latched on with very heavy metal. So you would actually need to do a lot of effort in order to take it down.
I understand. Even at the verticals? I mean,
It could not, and in 10 years of working with this concept, the robot never fall.
well, that's good to know. I was wondering what happens if a battery fails or something, because then if a robot simply
Oh yeah, it's physically locked, and there's no way to.
Is that true even for the verticals when it climbs vertically? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Interesting. But still, I mean,
Yeah, there's like mechanical brakes that
I see.
basically don't let the robot fall,
I
and
see.
you really have to physically release them before.
But the box could still fall down, right? So there could be a problem. For instance, there's one box that is, for whatever reason, accidentally connected to a second box or standing too close to it, and as you pull out one box, you accidentally pull out a second box, and that could fall down. Is that?
Yeah, again, never happened to us
Yeah.
yet. It could happen. There are a couple of mechanisms that the robot is equipped with I guess these are the reason why it never happened to us. First of all, when it engage with packages, always make sure that it pick it from the center. It makes sure that it's stable. Then once it's on the tray, there are a couple of flaps that hold the packet and don't even let it move. And we once even did just a fun experiment. We took a glass of water and filled it all the way to the top, and we asked the robot to pick the box with this glass of water inside. And by the end of the task, everything was completely dry. There's not even a drop of water that was spilled. So the robot package handling is very stable and safe. And yeah, there was never a case of a package falling or anything even. And the robot keep reporting on every second, making sure he have the package. So even if something going on, he will be able to immediately notify about it to the system and take care of it immediately.
Right. Understood. Okay. What kind of navigation technology do the robots use? Is that do I remember correctly that they use QR codes on the floor?
No, the technology is LiDAR.
It's LiDAR. Okay.
It's a fusion of sensor, LiDAR. I mean, the more professional name is VSLAM. It's basically a cloud of anchor point after there was already mapping done. So the robot could always identify where it's at and report back again its location. Yeah, but in the end of the day, technology-wise, it's a combination of LiDAR technology alongside to be more particular is the VSLAM technology.
I thought I read on the website that you use QR codes, which confused me a bit.
Maybe, I mean, in some of the videos, these are the previous generation. You're right. We use QR code and some lines on the wall, but that's the previous version.
I see.
We won't have any QR code in the current and the future one.
Because I was wondering about mixed traffic. When you have mixed traffic in warehouse aisles, then you're much better served with SLAM and LiDAR. Because if you just follow QR codes, then that seems a bit incomplete.
Yeah, but yeah, we are QR is the previous technology, and we moved on.
And on that note, how does the robot locate a carton in the rack? Because I mean I understand that it uses contour navigation to navigate on the floor, and then it probably has some coordinates for the uprights where it climbs up, I suppose. And there's probably I don't know how do you do navigation and how do you do navigation once you're up in the rack?
So before it engage directly with the package, it sends a laser that help him identify the overall dimension of the package and then the center of it, and based on that, the arm relocate themselves, and then if they need to go 1 centimeter above or below, they do it. But there's a laser that help the robot do the micro positioning before it engage with the box.
I see. Does the robot know in advance what kind of box it is going to retrieve, or is that always just figured out on the fly once it arrives at the position?
It knows because the WMS always tells them, I mean, it should have the dimension and the weight of the package, just because each QR code is representing dimension, right? But once it's arrived to the location that it was sent to, it will verify that this is the right package it was sent to pick, and that's another immediate but clear benefit that we offer, basically 0 errors. because it always verify that it picks the right package. And it's not just QR code, by the way. It's a camera that could, again, using AI technology, it could read handwriting or other signs, whatever you want to, because it basically could learn whatever machine vision there is there, QR code, barcode, handwriting, colors, and then translate it to whatever insight needed.
Okay, so you have the LiDAR sensor. That's one thing. Then you've got the laser. That's a different laser. That's not the LiDAR. And then you have a camera as well.
Correct.
And the what's the function of the camera? Just scanning and reading the barcodes?
Exactly.
Okay, so that's a very simple camera just for code detection. Okay,
Yeah.
I understand. Is there a limit to the number of robots that can climb up a rack?
No. We actually did a structure analysis, with a very famous engineering company, and we found out that these wrecking shells are so solid and strong that they could carry tons of kilos, and we're not even scratching the surface there. So yeah, there are no realistic limitation or practical limitation to the number of robots. Obviously, you want to make sure that you don't create a traffic jam.
Right.
But in that sense, you can run multiple robots on the rack yourself simultaneously.
So avoiding the traffic jam, is that something that you do with a fleet controller of the robot, or
that's part of the we call it RTTM, real-time traffic management. This is part one of the main roles of the server that I described before, and it always makes sure that it routes the robot in the best way possible to avoid any traffic jam or obviously collision.
Right. I see. Now, you mentioned before that BionicHIVE, that you would consider BionicHIVE primarily a software company, which I find interesting because the robot as such also looks quite sophisticated. So that I suppose you also have a very strong mechanical and electrical engineering team in the company. But what are some of the biggest challenges, like technical challenges, that the company is working on? Because I mean, there are many, because warehouses are way more complicated than they seem at the outset. But what are some of the biggest challenges that you're working on, that you're spending most resources on in the development?
So it's a lot of things that require to the intersection of hardware and software. So one of them is stacking, because it requires a lot of positioning, a very delicate positioning of the box, but then being able to pull the box and move them aside, and or build up on top of them. They engage what we call closed loop, basically the engagement from the ground to the shelving. So again, you have to be very accurate to the almost millimeter level, and then translate some of that to the drivers of the robot, to the wheels of the robot, and to the engines of the robot. So the whole combination of or intersection of software and hardware, that's where I think we have a lot of the technological challenges at the moment.
How many people do you have in the company, actually?
36.
36.
Yeah, a fairly small company, and very lean in the way we operate, especially if you compare us to other robotics company that already have the commercial deployment. I think you'll see one additional zero to the number of people they have and the number of millions they raised. So yeah, we're very lean in the way we operate, and we try to keep it that way.
Yeah, I mean, so 36 people, and also, I mean, Amazon has invested in your company through their what's the fund called? Industrial
Industrial
Innovation
Innovation
Fund,
Fund.
exactly. Yeah. Do you want to talk about this? I mean, you mentioned before that the company is very lean, so you haven't received hundreds of millions of euros in investment money as some other companies have that have actually received 100 million euros or more in investment money.
Not even dozens.
Not even dozens. Okay. Um, would you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So first of all, we're very proud of it. I think there's no other company that was able to achieve what we achieved, especially if you factor in the money that we raised, and we're very, very proud of it, and we would love to keep it that way. Having said that, we are raising. We are about to start a fundraise, and we're looking to raise money. We're very privileged and grateful for Amazon, the biggest logistic company in the world, that invested most of the investment the company raised up until now. And we now have I can't disclose much, but I mean, let's just say they became a partner. They are becoming a partner and no longer just an investor. Uh, and yeah, but we are looking to raise uh, ideally, if the investment market was better, we would go for a way more aggressive round. But given the market condition, we go for a more humble round. But I mean, this is very interesting. We are experiencing two contradict vector as a company. On one hand, on the commercial side, we have a huge demand from the biggest company in the world. I mean, if I would tell you the names of the company that reached out to us in the last month, you'd be amazed. I mean, the biggest company in the airfare world, logistics, clothing, automotive, food, really the biggest brand that everybody knows, reach out to us and to say, okay, I want to have an installation. I want to have a quote. And on the other hand, I mean, in the actual side, I mean, we already have a couple of deployments, and we're working on one more. So really great momentum and demand and product market fit on the commercial side. On the other hand, we, as a lot of other hardware company, we having hard time, you know, basically telling the story to investors. Because first of all, there's not a lot of investors invest in this field of software, hardware, supply chain and warehousing. It's a very niche market compared to I don't know, cybersecurity or ethic. And then even with this very small group of investors, there's like kind of chicken and egg problem, because we are in the business of capital intensive product, and that really required a lot of money to develop and to produce. And when you talk to these investors, they told you, okay, show me tractions,
All right.
show me how you're making millions of dollars. And you tell them, for that I would need some money, and it's kind of
Yes.
a
It's funny.
chicken
I hear
and
this
the
all the
egg.
time. This chicken and egg problem all the time from startups, because you
Yeah.
need references
Uh,
to convince investors, but you can't have references without some money
yeah,
to play with, and also to allow yourself to burn your fingers, because invariably, like every single company that I've seen, the first couple of references, the first couple of projects are going to be very costly, because they figure out a lot of stuff along the way which they did not
exactly.
anticipate. So that's always the case. It needs to be the case. That's how we
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah. And so it's a challenging market, and challenging time. Uh, but I feel we're very privileged, the fact that we have such a strong demand from the market. If we had the funding, I could really, I could have 10 more deployments within, I don't know, 1 or 2 quarters, if we have like unlimited source of funding. But yeah, we are working on this challenge, and yeah, this is something we would love to solve.
And are you working, or are you planning on working together with integrators, or will you be the integrator?
No. So currently we're still in the phase that we are working directly with the customer. Once we establish critical mass, we're definitely planning on working with integrators and have our solution as part of the overall portfolio of product,
Right.
definitely.
And
Yeah,
so,
but
okay.
that will be a little bit later along.
Right. So the partnership with Amazon doesn't constrain you from working with other integrators as well. Because if I
No,
think
we
about,
have,
for instance, the history of Kiva Systems, Kiva was Kiva Systems that has been an independent company, and they had a couple of projects, and then Amazon acquired them, and then basically they had to tell their other customers, "Oh,
no.
well,
First of all,
sorry."
we haven't been acquired
Yeah.
yet. They're just an investor, but yeah,
Yeah.
there's no exclusivity, and we are open to work with any company.
Now, currently you're focused on the US market, right? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, only the US
Only
market.
the US market. I read on your website, and I don't know if that is current information or if that needs updating, but you were planning to make the solution available to other countries mid 2025. Is that still the plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Still the plan.
And what countries are you targeting first? Is that something that you can share?
Oh yeah, this is one of my roles as a VP Business Development to decide. We have requests from the Middle East to Europe and South America, and obviously we won't be able to be everywhere by next year. So one of my goal is to try and collect the demand, collect the safety certificates and standards, other things that we need to consider, and decide which market will be our second market. And there's a lot of good candidates for that, but we have to make a wise decision.
Right. Are you going to be at Logimat next year? Are you
Well,
going to be at Logimat, the trade show in Germany, logistics trade show?
we're thinking about it. We skipped for the last few years. We will focus on the big conferences in the US, Promat and Modex and some others. But yeah, just because this is where our market,
Yes, sure.
this is where our customer.
Right.
But yeah, we are thinking seriously about returning to the European one. Yeah.
All right. Well, if I look at the time, I think we have to come to an end. You have been very generous with your time, and this has been very interesting. Thank you so much. Let me know if you come to Logimat. That would be great. It would be great to meet you there.
I actually mentioned it to Liran, our founder, that I'm going to have this podcast with you, and he remembered you from many years ago, and he has a lot of good words to say.
Well, that's very nice. Thank you. Well, convey my regards to him.
Great. I will. So yeah, thank you very much, Jacob. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak about all of these topics in length, and to really have a long answer to your question. Hopefully was clear enough. Yeah,
Definitely.
I'm very grateful for the time and the opportunity.
Thank you so much. It was great. Take care. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.